I am 37-year-old, just found out my husband cheated on me. What do I do now? My husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 2. I have 2 kids from a previous relationship, and he lovingly took them into his care. In fact, he went so far as to adopt them, solidifying his role as their father. For the longest time, everything seemed great between us, or at least I thought it was. I genuinely believed that we were happy together. I loved him deeply, and I truly felt that he loved me just as much. There weren't any obvious signs of problems in our relationship, or at least none that stood out to me. We have a regular and fulfilling sex life, so it's not as if he was being deprived of intimacy or connection in that way. The most painful part of what I've discovered isn't just the betrayal itself, but the fact that I know who the other woman is. He has slept with her not once but twice, and for the past month they have been sexting. It's not something I ever imagined would happen in our relationship. It feels surreal, like something out of a nightmare I can't wake up from. This all came to light when I stumbled upon his messages with her on his laptop. He was out at dinner with friends, and I wasn't snooping or looking for anything suspicious. I simply wanted to check if a message I had unsent in a group chat he's a part of had actually disappeared from his view. As soon as I logged into his laptop, the truth was right there in front of me. His Instagram DMs with her were open, and I couldn't avoid seeing them. The woman involved in this situation is the sister of one of my closest friends. I've known her for over 15 years, but we have never been close. To be honest, I've never really liked her, and it's clear from her behavior over the years that she doesn't like me either. This became even more evident when I read through their messages. What struck me the most wasn't just the content of their conversations but the level of animosity she seemed to have toward me. It felt deeply personal, as though her actions were about more than just an affair, they were about trying to hurt me directly. What makes this even more painful is how it all began. According to the messages, she followed him first on social media and he followed her back. She was the one who initiated the messaging and he responded. This wasn't some innocent exchange that escalated. They had already slept together by the time they started communicating online. The first encounter happened by chance when he was on a work trip, and they ran into each other unexpectedly. Instead of maintaining boundaries, they crossed a line that should never have been crossed. When I saw the messages, I felt physically sick. The conversation between them was almost entirely sexual. It wasn't just about lust, it felt calculated and cruel. She constantly criticized me in their messages, comparing herself to me in degrading ways and asking him if she was better than me. The way she put me down repeatedly was heartbreaking, and the fact that he didn't stop her or defend me made it even worse. It was as though he allowed her to tear me apart without hesitation. Reading those messages, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and disgust. What stood out most, though, was how pathetic and sad it all seemed. Her need to compare herself to me, to seek validation through these degrading conversations, and his willingness to entertain it, felt like a reflection of their own insecurities rather than anything I had done. Still, knowing that someone I've known for so long would not only betray me but do so with such malice, and that my husband would willingly participate in it, is a level of hurt I'm struggling to comprehend. As I continued reading through their messages, I discovered that their conversation shifted to talking about sending pictures. She suggested that he download Signal, a messaging app known for its privacy features. At that point, I felt compelled to investigate further, so I searched his computer to see if he had actually downloaded it. Sure enough, I found it. What I uncovered there was even worse than I could have imagined. In their conversations on Signal, she had sent him nude photos of herself, explicitly telling him to masturbate to them. He complied without hesitation, sending her explicit pictures of himself in return when she asked. It was as if he had completely lost any sense of autonomy or respect for me, our marriage, or himself. The dynamic between them was disturbing. It was almost as if he were acting like a submissive follower, eagerly fulfilling every one of her requests and playing along with her every whim. However, the part that struck me as the most disrespectful, disgusting, and hurtful was a particular exchange between them. She sent him a photo of herself and then told him to have sex with me while imagining that he was with her. His response to this vile suggestion was, "I'll try." That simple, casual response felt like a dagger to my heart. It wasn't just the betrayal of his actions, it was the sheer lack of regard for me as his wife and partner. The thought that he would even entertain such a grotesque idea is something I can't begin to process. It wasn't just a betrayal of our vows, it was an utter degradation of our relationship and of me as a person. That one message encapsulated the level of disrespect and disregard he had sunk to in this affair. It was humiliating, infuriating, and deeply painful to know that someone I trusted so completely could stoop to such a low level and allow himself to be manipulated into participating in something so vile. The second time they slept together was when she came into town to visit her sister, who is one of my closest friends. During her trip, she made arrangements to meet up with my husband, telling him that she would save some time for him. They met at a hotel that she had chosen, and I was completely oblivious to what was happening. I had no idea this was going on, no signs or suspicions at all. What makes it even worse is the way she gloated about it afterward. In one of her messages to him, she explicitly mentioned being on top during their encounter and had the audacity to ask, "Am I better than my name, on top?" The sheer audacity and lack of respect left me feeling absolutely disgusted. It was only after this second encounter that he decided to end things with her. But even then, the way it unfolded was disturbing. She didn't take his decision well and began begging him to continue their affair. Her desperation was palpable in her messages. She pleaded with him not to leave her and went so far as to make baseless accusations that I was cheating on him with one of my co-workers, which couldn't be further from the truth. It was as though she was trying to manipulate him by discrediting me and creating a false narrative to justify their actions or to make him feel less guilty. Her behavior became obsessive. If he didn't respond to her messages right away, she would send 30 or more messages in a row, bombarding him with pleas, accusations, and desperate attempts to get his attention. Instead of cutting her off immediately, he indulged her behavior. He apologized to her repeatedly, making excuses like, "Sorry I was with my name," or the kids, as though our family obligations were inconveniences he had to explain to her. The fact that he felt the need to apologize to her for spending time with his own family made me feel completely devalued. Reading those exchanges, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of betrayal, not just because of the physical affair but because of the emotional investment he seemed to have in her. He didn't just cheat, he entertained and enabled her manipulative and toxic behavior while neglecting the love, trust, and loyalty that should have been reserved for our marriage. It's a level of hurt and disrespect that I never imagined I would experience. This goes far beyond just cheating. This is a full-scale betrayal of everything our marriage was supposed to stand for: trust, loyalty, respect, and love. It's not just that he had an affair, it's the fact that he allowed her to continually trash-talk me in their conversations while exchanging explicit photos with her. He entertained her degrading comments about me, responding to her, engaging with her, and even sending his own explicit pictures in return. The sheer level of disrespect in his actions is infuriating. I am beyond livid. What makes it even more infuriating is that he clearly knew it was wrong. Time and time again he messaged her saying things like, "I shouldn't be doing this," or "I'm married," but he did it anyway. He actively chose to continue even while acknowledging that it was wrong. He made a conscious decision to betray me over and over again. I can't help but think back to one night when he broke down sobbing in front of me, completely out of the blue. He wouldn't tell me what was wrong and I comforted him, thinking it was something external causing him pain. Now I'm almost certain it was this, his guilt and shame eating away at him. Yet even that moment didn't stop him. Now I'm left trying to figure out what to do. I don't see a way to stay in this marriage. I don't think I can ever look at him the same way again. I don't recognize the man I married in the person who has done these things. The person I trusted with not just my heart but the well-being of my children has turned out to be someone completely different than I believed. I feel betrayed on every level, as a wife, as a mother, and as a person. I know I need to confront him, but I'm still trying to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't involve me completely losing control and yelling at him. I want to approach this with clarity and focus, even though every fiber of my being is screaming with hurt and anger. I only discovered all of this last night, and I haven't seen him today since he left early to play golf. It felt almost unbearable to share the same bed with him last night, knowing what I know now. I'm disgusted and heartbroken. I keep asking myself, who did I marry? How did I not see this coming? And beyond the confrontation, I'm terrified of what comes next. How will a divorce unfold? What will custody look like for my kids? They've already been through so much and he adopted them. They see him as their father. I'm sure he regrets what he's done, but honestly, I don't care anymore. Regret doesn't undo the choices he made. I'm just overwhelmed trying to figure out the best way to move forward from something so devastating. She posted an update. I want to start by saying how much I appreciate everyone who took the time to reply to my original post. Your support and advice have helped me more than I can express. Right now, I feel like I've fallen into a deep depression, and I'm still in the process of trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. It's overwhelming and I'm taking it day by day, even though some days feel impossible. After finding out about the affair, I called a close friend of mine who is a lawyer to ask for guidance on what I should do next. She gave me some clear advice and told me what steps to take to protect myself and my kids. One of the first things I did was take photos of all the messages and pictures as soon as I found them. Since the app they used deletes messages, I could only capture the conversations and images from the day I discovered them, but I made sure to document everything thoroughly. I also took screenshots of their Instagram DMs to have as much evidence as possible. My lawyer friend referred me to a divorce attorney she knows, and I've reached out to start that process. I know I need professional legal help to navigate what's ahead, especially when it comes to custody of my children. One of the hardest parts of all this is trying to figure out what's best for them. My friend explained that I won't automatically be granted sole custody just because of what he's done. The court could very well rule for shared custody, especially since he's been a consistent presence in their lives for over a year and has legally adopted them. As much as it hurts to admit, I know that this decision isn't just about me and my feelings. It's about the kids and what will provide them with the most stability and love. They adore him and see him as their father. He has been good to them, and I don't want to take that away from them just because of the pain he's caused me. That said, it's incredibly difficult to set aside my own anger and heartbreak when thinking about how this will affect them. One of the things that weighs heavily on me is the fear that, if it ever came down to a choice, they might choose him over me. They look up to him, admire him, and have built such a strong bond with him. While I know this is a reflection of the positive relationship they've had with him as their father, it still stings. I can't help but feel a looming sense of inadequacy and doubt about my place in their hearts. Right now, I'm just trying to take the steps I need to protect myself and my children while also thinking about how to preserve their sense of family and security. It's a delicate and painful balance, and I'm doing the best I can, even though I feel like I'm barely holding it together. I managed to act as though everything was normal when he came back home. Pretending helped, and so did taking Valium to keep myself from falling apart. For a while, he didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary, but eventually my silence and avoidance got to him. He could tell something was wrong. When he finally asked, I confronted him. I told him I knew about everything, the affair, the messages, the betrayal. I tried my best to stay calm, but it was impossible. The emotions I had been holding back came rushing out, and I ended up yelling at him. I couldn't help it. The betrayal was too big, the hurt too raw. He didn't argue or try to deny it. Instead, he sat there in silence, guilt written all over his face. He looked terrible, and I could see the weight of his actions bearing down on him. But seeing his guilt didn't make me feel better. If anything, it made me angrier. I told him how deeply disrespectful it was not only to cheat on me but also to entertain and encourage a woman who constantly trashed me in their messages. I reminded him that by staying silent during her cruel comments, he was complicit in her behavior. I kept asking him why he did it, why he risked our family, why he betrayed me in such a profound way. But he couldn't give me an answer. All he could do was apologize over and over again and beg me not to leave him. He said this was the only time he had ever done anything like this, that he was weak and made a horrible mistake. He insisted that he loved me and not her, that he never stopped loving me, and that he would do anything to fix it. But hearing his words didn't bring me any clarity. If anything, it left me feeling even more confused and hurt. I couldn't handle staying in the same space with him after that. I needed to get away and think, so I left and stayed the night at a friend's house. I didn't tell the kids why I was leaving, and I haven't spoken to him since that night. However, we still live in the same house, which makes everything even harder. It's tense, awkward, and silent. I avoid him as much as I can, but the atmosphere in the house is suffocating. I don't know how to move forward, and I don't know if I even want to. All I know is that this situation feels unbearable, and I'm struggling to figure out what's next. After taking some time to process everything, I talked to a few of my friends to get their advice. One of them suggested that we try couples counseling, pointing out that I might still have some love for him, even if I hate myself for feeling that way. Another friend was much more straightforward and said I should just leave him, that he didn't deserve another chance after such a betrayal. Both perspectives gave me a lot to think about, but they also added to my inner conflict. Part of me wants to walk away without looking back, but another part wonders if there's any way to salvage this for the sake of the life we built and for the kids. I also had a hard but necessary conversation with my friend whose sister was the one he cheated with. She was devastated when I told her and kept apologizing, even though this isn't her fault in any way. I could tell she felt a deep sense of guilt for her sister's actions, which made me feel terrible too. I reassured her that she wasn't to blame, but the whole situation has strained that relationship. Now, every time I talk to her, it's a reminder of what happened. On a more practical note, I took the advice I received and got tested for STDs, something that honestly hadn't even crossed my mind until someone pointed it out. Thankfully, my results came back negative, but just going through the process was a stark reminder of the gravity of what he's done. I also made him get tested and his results came back negative as well. That brought some relief, but it didn't erase the anger and disgust I feel. What infuriates me even more is the near certainty that they didn't use protection. My husband has a vasectomy, and we decided on it so we wouldn't have to use protection in our marriage. I never imagined that decision would be abused in this way, that he would take advantage of that trust to sleep with someone else without using protection. It feels like yet another layer of betrayal, another way he disrespected not only our marriage but my health and well-being. Now I'm left trying to piece together what comes next. My emotions are all over the place: anger, sadness, confusion, and a lingering sense of love that I wish I didn't feel. I'm not sure if counseling is the answer or if leaving is the only way forward. All I know is that this situation has shaken me to my core, and I'm struggling to find a path that feels right. As nice as it would be to get help and move past this and build our relationship, I can't. I can't look at him, I can't stand him. All I see of him with her and it disgusts me. He's been sleeping on the couch in the basement so I don't have to sleep with him because I can't. It would take too much work that I'm not willingly to give to fix this. If we're already at the point where I can't touch him, be around him, or even look at him, I think it's best to just have us find other people. It does suck because I never thought I'd ever get married and I took a chance with him with hope he'd be the one. I even moved from my home and favorite place in the world to be closer to where he works. Well, didn't that just come back and hit me in the face? Thanks again for all your help. Let's read some comments. First comment was, in my personal opinion, I'm not excusing cheating at all, but I do think there's a spectrum. Drawing a hard line at any sort of cheating being an absolute deal breaker is totally reasonable. But I do think there's a difference between, say, a drunken one-night stand with a stranger and an ongoing thing. I also think there's a difference between a casual fling and a full-blown emotional and physical affair. And I think adding in bad-mouthing your spouse / allowing your affair partner to badmouth your spouse adds an extra layer of betrayal. Again, not excusing cheating and if I personally could ever forgive it. But people cheat for a lot of reasons, and sometimes relationships can bounce back from it depending on the individuals involved and the health / history / goals of their relationship in general. But that layer of nastiness is a whole other thing, so I get what the above poster is saying. Second comment was, I totally understand that some people will forgive those actions, but I can't lie and say I understand why. I see cheating as one of those ultimate betrayals because once you start fucking with my life and my well-being, you have officially shown that you do not respect me or have the drive to nurture the relationship. I really see being in a monogamous and committed relationship as a very easy thing to do. Having doubts? Communicate it. Have a crush? Communicate it. If you're too cowardly or, quite honestly, stupid enough to cheat, then you just have no place in my life because my time is extremely valuable. I am not living this life, the only one that I get, so that someone can destroy me emotionally or put my physical health at risk. I am aware that there are people who would never cheat and would worship a relationship, so I am quite inclined to move on from someone who isn't on that wavelength. Just a personal anecdote, but I have never seen a relationship that involved cheating fully recover. And many people that I have seen forgive do so because they are passive people or they struggle with their self-worth. I do just think it's a little humorous to consider talking shit the biggest part of that betrayal. If my partner is willing to hurt me like that already, it wouldn't shock me that they were putrid enough to say nasty shit about me too. That would honestly be the least of my worries. Sorry for long-winded response, I appreciate your perspective. Third comment was, I am glad you confronted him, though I know it was painful. I'm glad you witnessed his guilt and shame as you shared the evidence. It shows how low and sick he really is at heart. For him to beg you not to divorce and claiming that he loves you shows that he has a major cognitive dissonance and little concept of the consequences of his actions. He fed off of the AP's narcissistic supply at the detriment of his wife. He failed to protect his marriage and prioritize his relationship with you. How in the world does he expect you to unsee the text exchange and photos? You'd have to be blind, not bright, or a saint to overcome that. I'm sorry, OP, but stay strong and focus on your healing and recovery. Keep surrounding yourself with people who have your back. Fourth comment was, for what it's worth, staying after cheating, in my limited experience, does insane things to your brain. It's very much not worth it. To leave now and begin to heal on your own terms is, again just in my opinion, going to serve you and your child/children so much better in the long run. I am sorry you're going through this. One day you will be able to look back on it through a much less emotional lens and hopefully find some peace. Be kind with yourself. Fifth comment was, I feel bad for you. I don't know if my husband has had sex with anyone else since we've been married. One time I hit last number dialed on our old house phone in the 90s and got a massage parlor. Lied his way out of that, but it didn't really matter. We haven't had sex with each other in decades, didn't plan it this way. But I married someone I didn't love. After our second child was born and the 6 weeks wait were up, I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't have sex with someone that made it feel like a GYN exam. It made him bitter and resentful towards me. Whenever I brought up divorce, he either said we couldn't afford it or he didn't want me to take one half his money. I always worked, often P/T because of the kids. My mother died a while back and left me an unexpected $160,000 so we could actually afford to live separate. Been married 44 years and raised 2 messed up kids. You think you're staying together for the kids, but it really does them no good to be in an unhappy home. My mother divorced when I was 4, but that was an unhappy home too, for all different reasons. Thank you for listening the story to the end. If you enjoy our videos, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a good day, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it and hit the notification bell icon to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.